Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We are going to just give another 30 seconds or so for everyone to funnel into the room, and then we'll get started. Okay, I think that's enough time for everyone to join. So we're going to get started today. Today's webinar is about our product ReadyGO. We're going to talk about how to lighten your load this summer with ReadyGO. My name is Mike Zackerson. I'm CEO and co-founder of Cidi Labs. I'll be doing some introduction here at the very beginning of the presentation. I'll turn it over to Michelle Muldowney-Stevens, who is our manager of training and support, and she will go through a demonstration of ReadyGO. And I'm really happy to have Eric Larson and Tanya Means here with us. Eric from the University of St. Thomas and Tanya from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, to talk about their experience implementing and using ReadyGO at their respective institutions. Real quick, by way of housekeeping, we will be using the Q&A feature in Zoom for monitoring questions. So if you do have a question along the way, please register that question there, and we'll watch for that. We will answer some questions real time and then hold back others for the time that we have at the end allotted for the Q&A session. So don't be shy, go ahead and log your questions there. We are also recording the session today, and we'll distribute that recording out via email to everyone. It's an email that'll come from Zoom. That should come within the next 24 hours or so after today's presentation. So with that, let me jump into a little overview of Cidi Labs. So for those of you who don't know, I imagine many of you are already familiar with us, but for those of you who aren't, please bear with me as I go through this. But we're a partner of Instructors. We provide tools for Canvas that help organizations scale their online course development and delivery practices. So this is particularly relevant under today's circumstances, as all of you are really busy bringing all your courses online. So Canvas is a great platform, but there are some things around the edges that could use some enhancement when you start deploying courses at scale. And so that's what really kind of the key focus of many of our solutions. Our model is to take locally developed tools and bring them to the cloud. So we partner with universities who have developed interesting add-on tools to Canvas and make it easy to share those solutions through a cloud delivery model. And so we partner with two universities today, Utah State University and the University of Central Florida, around their solutions. We'll set them up in a cloud environment and provide ongoing training and support and continuous enhancements for those solutions. Cidi Labs was started in 2016 as a spin-out from Utah State University, from their Center for Innovative Design and Instruction. The team now, we have a small team, but a very experienced team with over 90 years of aggregate experience serving education in various forms, whether it's instructional design or direct experience with Canvas, or providing other tools and services to both K-12 and higher ed. And we currently have over 225 clients now that are using our tools in conjunction with their Canvas environment. We're really happy about the progress that we've made over the past 4 years. The tools that we offer, our flagship product is Design Plus, and that tool was developed by Utah State University. Last year, we added 3 new tools: the UDoIT Cloud Accessibility Checker. This That tool was provided in partnership with University of Central Florida. And then Tidy Up and ReadyGO are also two tools that have come out of Utah State's Center for Innovative Design and Instruction. As a real high-level overview, Design Plus is a course design tool set for Canvas that makes it easy to rapidly build courses that engage students. UDoIt Cloud is a course-level accessibility checker for Canvas that allows you to scan all the content in a course at the course level and provides a report and tools for remediating those issues. Tidy Up is a utility to help you identify unused or duplicate files and unpublished pages inside your Canvas instance, and gives you tools to bulk delete those items, or even publish some of those items if they need publishing and those kinds of things. And then ReadyGO, which is the subject for today, is a tool that helps instructional design teams go through the kind of the pre-flight checks that you need to go through prior to the beginning of a semester start to ensure that your Canvas courses are ready to go for the upcoming term. This is our last webinar in a series of 4 that we've done. So there are webinar recordings for the previous 3 products that I mentioned that you can go to our website and access if you want to go review those. But for today, we're going to turn the time over now to Michelle to start with our demonstration.
All right, so I'm going to go at this from a user perspective, and just a little bit about ReadyGO. When Kenneth works for Utah State University, and when he first started working there, towards the beginning of the term, he would be walking back and forth past Neil Legler, his boss's office, and at the beginning of the term, he would be working on this spreadsheet, and he would spend hours and hours, days working on this spreadsheet. And Kenneth, being the type of person that he is, was like, can I help you with this? Is there something I can do to make this a little bit easier for you? And that's how this tool came about. Utah State has been using a version of this for years now, and I was lucky enough to get the chance to work with it when I was working for Utah State. And it made working as a designer there so much easier. It made it so easy to track my courses at the beginning of the semester, or leading up to the beginning of the semester. It gave me a great way to focus in on certain tasks each day. It's just a really fantastic tool. So coming in as an instructional designer, this is what the tool is going to look like. You are going to have a list of courses that have been imported for you. And in this list of courses, you can narrow it down. So you could just look at the courses that have been assigned to you as a team member. Or you can see all of the courses, and this is what we're viewing right now. It's just all of the courses that have been imported under the due date up here. So you can set up due dates. Let's say the beginning of the term is next Monday. You want all of your courses ready to go by Friday. You can set a due date to Friday and track them up to that point. But with this view here, you're going to have an automatic link to your courses. So if you have any questions, if you're looking for anything in your courses, you don't have to go searching for them. You don't have to go over to your dashboard and sort through the different courses. You have all access to all of them right here. And these are all direct links, as I mentioned. The alerts are what ReadyGO is systematically looking for as you are updating the data in this tool. Now, when you're running updates, depending on where you are at with the course development progress, maybe a couple months out, you're only updating it maybe every week or so. With right up at the beginning of the term, you're waiting for those last pieces to come in, so you're updating them maybe every hour. So depending on how often, how frequently you want to update, these are what ReadyGO is looking for. Now, you can turn these on or off depending on what your institution is looking for. But for each one that you turn on, such as you want to make sure that courses are published, or that assignments are in the course and there's actually students in the course, you can turn all of these on and off depending on what your institution is looking for. With the individual items here, you'll notice that the points that haven't been met yet are going to show up red. So these are the alerts of what you need to make sure that faculty member gets done before the beginning of the term. As we scroll down here, you'll notice that there's different alerts in each course. If you wanted to take today to focus in on the courses that that don't have a syllabus yet, you could come in here, use any of these filters, narrow it down and focus in on just those courses today to meet that deadline of getting your syllabi in by a certain point. You'll also notice that you can set statuses. So these that are pending, these are ones that we're still working through. So ready, of course, means that the course is ready to go. And then you can set these statuses depending on what works best for your institution. But you're really always going to have a ready and a pending. With the statuses, if everything is ready in a course except that the course needs published and you're waiting for the faculty member to do that, you could even mark it as not published. There's one piece within ReadyGO where you can push out to the full institution, and that is the published. So if you get up to the first day of classes and you have a lot of faculty members who have everything ready in their course but they forgot to publish, you can actually publish those courses in mass. So that is the one feature here within ReadyGO that you can actually push out institution-wide. With the filters, you can, as I said, you can sort by team members. So if you wanted to focus in on your courses, you could. The notes here are also extremely handy. So as instructional designers, let's say you have a couple of instructional designers assigned to the accounting courses, or maybe you have a head instructional designer along with an intern that are assigned to these courses. They can use this note section to keep in touch with one another. So maybe in the designer, the ID comes in and says, I contacted this instructor on Monday for their syllabus, then the intern could come in and write a note that they've checked it and that syllabus is there. They can keep track of those notes, and this is between the design team. Nobody else sees these notes except for the people that are in this course and have the access to these particular courses. The other super handy feature is the Instructor Chat. So you can turn this on a course-by-course basis, and once you have the Instructor Chat, it'll be just like this notes button. Once that faculty member has messaged you, you'll have a little number here letting you know that. But as we work with Instructor Chat, I'm going to go ahead and open that up. Like the notes, we can type in a note to this instructor, and send it, and then we can actually go to that course and look at the instructor view. So I'm going to use that direct link to this course, and now in the left-hand navigation, we'll have a ReadyGO view. With this ReadyGO view, if you have instructors that you're trying to get a hold of, maybe your instructor holds off on contacting you back because they want to write a long formal message to you, instead, or they're breaking everything up into different email chains, the Instructor ReadyGO view is extremely helpful because it keeps everything in one place. So you'll be able to see the trail of messages. And I must have come into the wrong course there, but you would see the message that you sent to the instructor. The instructor could send you a quick informal message back. All of your communication is kept in one place, and it's much easier to track. You'll also be able to see, or your faculty members will be able to see if there's any alerts in that course. So if you're waiting for their syllabus, if you're waiting for them to put their content into modules, they'll be able to see those right here in the course alerts area. They'll also be able to see some details about their course, as well as any instructional designers if they've been assigned to it. Now you can assign, as I said, multiple instructional designers to courses. So if you have a team that is focused in on the humanities group or the humanities department or the biology department, you can assign those to them, and they can, they'll all be able to look at those courses. Another very handy feature that we recently added in is the checklists. So if you have something other than the alerts and links that ReadyGo is systematically looking for, you can create your own checklist. So maybe you follow Quality Matters and you have some points at the beginning of the term that your faculty members have to include. Then you could create a checklist for that and build it out, and you'll notice that as I hover over these individual items, you'll see what has been met and what hasn't been met. So it'll show green if that is good to go, or if they still need to finish that, you'll have the little block there. You can also add on multiple checklists. So you create those checklists yourself. We can say maybe this faculty member did those. Now when we come in, you can see that checklist there. So if your different colleges within your institution have their own checklists versus those institutional checklists, you can add as many checklists as you want. We also have a lot of other information in here. Another thing that's very handy is the last instructor activity. So this is not meant as a way to reprimand instructors at all. This is so that if you were to contact an instructor on Monday, letting them know that you're waiting on their syllabus to be updated, then if that instructor hasn't been in the course since that time that you contacted them, you know that you can spend your time more wisely looking at something else rather than going into that course and looking for those updates to their syllabi. Now, it looks like a long horizontal scroll right now, but you can also set the visibility to this page. So if we wanted to come in and turn off some of these, maybe we don't really need to know the Canvas start dates right now. I'm just going to turn off a bunch of these. Now you'll see this is a user by user status, how that list has been narrowed down. You're not scrolling horizontally as much. The reports feature, if you wanted to, let's say you have a new batch of courses that are coming in and you need to check and see which instructional designers can handle those courses right now. You could come in here and look at the reports, and we can see how many courses each instructional designer has ready, how many are still pending, and we can kind of get a better idea of who can take on more courses at this time. We can also narrow it down by the team member or by team. There are multiple ways that you can set up ReadyGo. So if you have a siloed institution with instructional design departments throughout the institution, you can narrow it down so just those departments can only see those courses. There's a wide variety of setup when it comes to ReadyGo. Also, I know a lot of the deans for online learning want to know at the beginning of the term, do my courses have syllabi? Do they have meet these points for those courses to start? This is a great way to be able to come in, give them a snapshot, and let them know how those courses are coming along leading up to the beginning of the term. With the setup, so that's the basic user interface for ReadyGo. But when it comes to setting up the tool, there's two different ways that you can import data. You can either import it directly from Canvas, or you can import it from a CSV. You can refresh the data from here and it will tell you the last time it was refreshed. But as far as settings go, you add people into this course as teachers, and then you assign them a role. So you'll see we have a number of roles here. You come in and assign them so that they can, you can determine what they can see within the ReadyGo course. With the checklists, this is where you can go in and create your own individual checklists. Advanced is where you can set those statuses and set those alerts to track. Remember, those are those systematic pieces that ReadyGo is looking for. So if your institution doesn't care if your faculty members have grade schemes, or maybe they don't care if they use Design Plus, they can turn those on and off as needed. So as I said, ReadyGo as an instructional designer was an extremely helpful tool. It helped keep us organized. It let us see if somebody was out of the office for a period of time and another instructional designer needed to jump in and follow up with some of the instructors. It was a great way to be able to see exactly where they were and be able to work together better and more efficiently as a team. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Eric.
All right, thanks, Michelle. I think Mike is going to bring up a slide so you know who I am. It really is just one slide that shows who I am. My name's Eric Larson. I work at the University of St. Thomas. I do have to caution people, that is not in the Virgin Islands. We are in Minnesota, which is interesting when we get vendor calls in January and people say, oh, it must be so nice there. Well, it's nice of a different kind than what you might have thought. But we are Minnesota's largest private university, founded in 1885, over 10,000 students, depending on how you count. That's split 50-50 graduate to undergraduate. For years, we've always had some fully online programs, but face-to-face was really like key and part of our brand. So we're going to talk a little bit about the change that we faced with recent events here this spring. And interestingly, I'm looking at some of the chat and things. Culturally, this will depend on institution. We had a lot of faculty autonomy for courses that were outside of those online programs. You may or may not, but I saw a question come through in passing about creating master courses, and we didn't really do that. Faculty are kind of left to their own devices. But anyway, we'll get to that. We had Blackboard Learn on-premise since 2002. Then we transitioned to Canvas in 2017. We overlapped them for a year, have been Canvas only since 2018. So that's our technical background. But as long as I've had my fingers in LMS support, which is like more than 15 years there now, the key question has always been, who's using the LMS in their course? And that has two very difficult components to it, because first you have to define using. Like, are we talking about faculty who've logged in, or have they loaded files in? Is there student engagement using the various tools in the LMS or not? And then we have to define, what is a class? Like, do we count internships? Do we count a dissertation placeholder that's sitting in there? What about independent studies? How about labs that are paired with a face-to-face class? So there was always this conversational asterisk, because even if you could get those questions answered, then there was the likelihood that, well, maybe faculty were covering that portion of the course in their classroom. We see no sign of discussions, but they're probably sitting around in a circle talking or something, right? And then we closed all of our classrooms. So let's talk openly about how we got involved in ReadyGO. Kenneth Larson, he is in the group here and somewhere in the Brady Bunch pictures. No relation, different spelling, but that was a name that kept coming up as our instructional designers worked on our Canvas implementation. And then we licensed Design Plus, so the designers could have some more control over the look and feel of Canvas. And part of our whole moving from Blackboard to Canvas was the hope that we could get more faculty using the LMS than we had in our Blackboard days, which brings us back to that, how do we know who's using it question. So I'll, secret here, ReadyGO is cool, but it is not magic, because the data that it's showing that you just saw is all in Canvas already. And Canvas has got really good reports built in, which give a part of the picture, but not all of it. And you need to love spreadsheets as much as I do to appreciate that. I am the LMS admin, so that's what I do, but not everybody's there. There is also a built-in Canvas data portal, which is super cool and really thorough. And if you don't have access to it, talk to your Canvas CSM and structure. But it's kind of too thorough, because you need to build your own reporting engine against it. And then the information's all a couple days old, because it goes from Canvas to the reporting engine. So years back, it was years now, we were chatting with Kenneth personally a couple times about the syllabus tracker that he had built. I mean, you heard it referenced at the beginning of this, and trying to figure out if we could build a tool like he'd made. And then it got repackaged as ReadyGO and released by Cidi Labs. And the answer that we finally got ourselves to is, yeah, we could reinvent this wheel, but it would take fewer resources to just buy it. So we bought it. Did we use it? No, not really. So why not? Well, because we still had that variable back in the before times of, well, maybe this course doesn't really need to use the LMS. And so at that point, ReadyGO kind of fell into this project management world of, well, it's kind of one more thing that we could use to keep track of our course development where it's needed, but maybe it's not. And as a project management tool, it's fine, but it's not really built to be that. And since we're a Microsoft shop, it's not as robust as some of the other stuff that we had been using in other teams and other areas to do all their project management things. So it kind of sat on the shelf. Pre-COVID-19, we did have some fully online programs. So if they weren't using the LMS, they were in real trouble. But the numbers were small enough that there's this close enough relationship with the instructional designers that they kind of already had a handle on what was going on within those. So for the first year or so, ReadyGo was kind of a solution in search of a problem. I'm sure that you have gigantic budgets with plenty of surplus. We don't. So when we had some budget cuts earlier this year, I've got to be honest, we had made the decision to not renew ReadyGo because it wasn't that much money, but every dollar kind of counted. Well, just have Eric grab the data out of Canvas, and then once in a while we'll putz with a spreadsheet and hand it over to whoever needs it. That was good enough. And then we closed all of our classrooms. So the decision was made not to return to campus for spring semester. That was made right around our spring break, and to hold all summer courses online. And I think, like, as of now, maybe, I guess, fall is still truly TBD, but an online component is going to be not unimportant. I will leave it at that. So the question kept coming up, how do we know who we need to go out and help? And then the question came up of, well, for these new course sites where the faculty have just kind of been thrust into online teaching, how do we know if they're ready to go? And from the technical side, I said, you know, we have a tool that does that for us, right? So we talked about implementing it. Our original implementation a while back took, technically took maybe 30 minutes. So I'm not a sales guy, this isn't a sales presentation, but just trust me that I'm now 2 for 2 in installing Cidi Labs stuff, because we had design tools and we did ReadyGo. And I catch myself saying out loud, this was written by someone who actually has run a system before. So the technical side, very straightforward. When we talk about quickly implementing it, we're kind of talking here about quickly starting to use the thing we had already implemented, but the technical implementation was very, very slick. So just a couple contextual things here. I will tell you that in my experience, unlike some of the tools I have to use, ReadyGo just randomly gets better instead of getting worse. It hasn't broken yet. I log in and I see things like, oh, that's a cool addition. Which, if you're a Canvas user, is not going to be a big surprise, because that's kind of how Instructure rolls. So this sort of feels like that same culture. But here's something key. This is worth the price of admission right here. Politically and culturally, I hear some fears about faculty concerns about this tool being like Big Brother, because you're looking into what's being done in the course. If you're a faculty member on this webinar, I mean, probably some of you are here, let me tell you something as a system administrator. I have always been able to figure out everything you're doing in any of my systems, and I don't, because that would be unethical and I do not have time. So somehow your decision makers and your IT folks, who are probably the rest of the folks on this webinar, have got to be brave enough to address that honestly on your campus and in your campus culture. If you're a faculty member, you've been asked to put your syllabus in the syllabus tool. We've asked all of our faculty to do that, and you haven't. Our job is to help you do that. And if for some reason you've got any moral objections, don't want to, take it up with your chair or your dean. I don't really care one way or the other, because I have a lot of other things that I'm supposed to be caring about. And any reporting tool, I think Canvas itself, because it's got a bunch of data in it, has that issue, and you need to figure out a way to deal with that conversation in your campus culture. Some of you will be easy, for some of you it might be really hard. What we promised in my little 7-minute blurb was the topic of how ReadyGo saved us valuable time. And I have to tell you that if you are approaching your new normal, your new world, as ignorance is bliss, then it will not save you time, because it's not going to let you stay ignorant anymore, which has been a challenge for us in spots. You are going to find lots of faculty that you should follow up with, and courses that need things for the good of the students that you didn't know they needed, but you'll know now. But chances are you're probably already being asked who's on track, who's already using quizzes and modules, and would they be a good resource to help lead a training, who needs some extra help, what kind of help do they need, what tool do they need to be brought up to speed on. That's what the ReadyGo tool does. It's based on up to the minute reality of actually looking at Canvas, not a reporting service someplace. It's right inside Canvas. So as you saw demoed, if there's any piece of data that looks a little strange, you can click it and get right into that course. It's just really, really slick. So I'm around for questions and things, but for now I'm going to turn it over to my fellow presenter, Tanya Means, to keep the conversation going with what they've done a few miles south of us up here. And we'll keep an eye on the Q&A and answer any questions when they come up. Thanks.
Thanks, Eric. So I'll share with you some of the same things that Eric talked about were very similar to what happened at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. We were pretty much, we were already using Design Plus and had great success in using it within the college and had built out templates, and we're doing a lot with our instructional designers to work with faculty for our online programs. We have, at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, we have about 25,000 students. Within the College of Business, we have we have one online MBA program and several graduate specialized master's programs, but most of our online courses at the undergraduate level were primarily our summer courses. And so we had been helping our faculty with online courses and programs for a couple of years. But when we started moving into what would be happening in early March, we started recognizing what was going to go on and started trying to figure out how we could move to moving everyone to online for the rest of the semester. We had already started looking at ReadyGo again, because I had heard previously from Kenneth about the system and how it worked and was anxiously awaiting when it would be made available. And as we started noticing that we would need to move all of our courses to remote instruction, we started recognizing that we would need some way to, first of all, identify, as Eric talked about, the courses that didn't have anything going on in them, and then where we would need to prioritize our support. We also recognized that we were going to have a significant number of courses, 76 courses to be exact at this point, that we would need to be able to offer in the summer with some of the instructors who had never taught online, or PhD students, or really had very little experience with using Canvas. So just as Eric mentioned, we addressed this with our department chairs, and we said, look, we've already got access to view all of this information in Canvas, but it's time consuming and we have to go and kind of dig through and find it. We would like to be able to have some consistency across all of our courses, and we would like to be able to offer support to faculty in a way that helps them to ensure quality and also helps them to know what things we need them to do and what things we need to be able to support them with. And so we developed a set of checklists. We got started with ReadyGo, we did our training and built out our checklists, and were able to implement those in time for playing around with as we moved to summer or to spring, but then implementing fully for our summer courses. So I've shared with Mike some screenshots of what it looks like. Just as you saw in the demo, we have 3 different checklists that we use, and we basically set them up as a baseline and as pre-launch review, but then the middle ones were just additional items that we kind of wanted to be able to track. So we wanted to know which instructors were doing some active learning, or which courses were offering live sessions, or which courses were requiring proctoring. And so we felt it would be easier for us to go through and check those off as we were developing the courses, and have those as the ability to be able to do some reporting on those after the fact as well. So I'll talk through our checklist that we created and kind of help you to recognize what we put into the checklist, and then talk a little bit about what we're hoping to do with those. So our baseline review, is, we're saying at a minimum, every course needs to have these particular things set up. And I'm happy to share this out after the fact with everybody, but basically we were looking at things that were materials on the homepage and in the course that would orient the students. So do they have a homepage using our templates? Do they have a start here page for introducing the students to the course, what the expectations were going to be, and who the instructor was? And then do they have the syllabus set up according to the university's required items? We were also asking if the courses at a baseline had modules that were organized chronologically, because we know that students who go into a course want some organization and some structure that they can follow. We were also looking at whether or not they had the calendar set up with all of the items in the calendar so that students had it on their to-do list and knew when they were supposed to do assignments, complete quizzes, read pages, and that kind of thing. We wanted to make sure that the grade books were organized and that they had the left navigation cleaned up so students weren't going into a course and finding, 4 or 5 different items on the menu that they wouldn't even have any knowledge of what was in there. We wanted to make sure that every course linked to our student guide that we had developed so that students had access to all the information that they needed in order to be successful technologically. And if they were going to be using online proctoring, we wanted to make sure that information was in the syllabus. So that's everything that we included in the baseline. We said all of these courses, these 76 courses, we want to make sure that they all have those prior to the launch of the course. The next one I'll talk about is the pre-review, pre-launch review. And this was so that we could go through and do a check right before the course was launched to make sure that all of the links were validated and that the accessibility checker had been run and that we had a match between the calendar and the syllabus dates. And then the last one I mentioned was the one in the middle, which was the additional items. And this was one where we just wanted to be able to later on go back and look without having to dig through all of the courses. So if we have a course, Mike, if you want to go back to that first slide that you showed that had the example. Yeah, so here you can see that one of the courses has 4 different additional items checked, and the second course has looks like 9 different items checked. And those are so that we can look at things like whether the outcomes and learning objectives were aligned to assessments and activities, whether they had set up live sessions for their students with synchronous activities, whether they were using groups or in-video quizzing or pages that had quick check questions and a progress bar. So they're not really things that the instructors have to do, and in fact, they don't need to do all of them. But we wanted to be able to use them later on to go back and find out information about how many people are using rubrics for assignments and things like that. So this allowed us to do some quality checking. It allowed us to know which instructors were doing some things that we wanted to highlight and to share with others. And it also allowed us to do that pre-review and baseline to make sure that everybody had some consistency so that when students would come in to a course, they were able to have a similar look and feel and recognize where they were supposed to go and what they were supposed to do, and that the course would technically work properly. So Mike, I think that's all of the slides that I had. So if I want to just send it back to you, I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Excellent. Thank you, Tanya, for that. And thank you, Eric, for your presentation as well. All right, so that's it as far as the presentation material goes. We do have a number of questions that have come in. And I'm going to start with a question that I may direct at Kenneth if you're available, Kenneth. But there have been a number of questions about just sort of general setup. And I think there's some confusion about how the tool gets set up initially and who has access to it and who can see the various LTI tools. Can you comment on, clarify a little bit of that for us?
Sure. So the way that ReadyGo is set up is when it gets installed, there's a course that's created that Michelle showed you, and ReadyGo is an LTI tool that's added to this course. And the reason that we do that is so that you can use Canvas as the login method to control access to ReadyGo. So we don't have to keep track of passwords or anything like that. You're using Canvas to control who can access ReadyGo. And so that's kind of where the main ReadyGo tool resides, so that any team member, instructional designer that's coming to review courses, they're going to a specific ReadyGo course. But then Michelle also pointed out the ReadyGo view tool that is used to communicate with instructors. That one actually gets turned on for a course. So there's a little button there inside ReadyGo on that row for a course that you can click to make that tool available inside the course. That is a course admin LTI tool. Now that's meaning that it's visible to those who have permissions to create and edit content in the course, like your teachers, TAs, should be your designers as well, depending on, you know, how, if you're using custom roles, but it's not something that students will ever see. It's hidden from students. And so that particular tool then should be available inside whatever course it's turned on for those who have permissions to create and build and, you know, work within that course. But ReadyGO itself is in its own separate course. Does that cover it? Is there another part you wanted me to hit, Mike?
No, I think that covers it. There are a lot of questions about the Instructor Chat tool. Do you want to clarify a little bit more as to how, I mean, you mentioned that, you know, from the dashboard, you can turn it on, but as communication is flowing back and forth, how are notifications handled, that kind of thing?
And this might actually be a better one for Chuck or Michelle to chime in, because this is one of the features that I didn't think to add. This is one that came through our some of the awesome customers at Cidi Labs, and Chuck did the work to get that particular feature in place. As I understand it, and I can answer it and then Chuck can correct me, the actual, unless Chuck, you unmuted, do you just want to answer it?
No, I just enjoy correcting you. So I'm excited to see if I have a chance.
So as I understand it, so when you post to, when you actually post a comment, it will send a message to the faculty that a comment has been set and link them so that they can go into the tool to view it. Sadly, with the way Canvas does LTI tools, there's not a way that we can add like a little count over in the course sidebar to say you have some unread responses. But then for the faculty member, when they go in and reply, that's where, as Michelle showed in ReadyGO, you get a little number of unread messages that show up in the actual table inside ReadyGO. Did I miss anything on that?
No, that's perfect.
Well, good. It's always nice to know that things work the way that I think they do.
And Kenneth, I'm not going to let you go without elaborating. In one of your responses to Ed here, I see that you noted that Utah State has just started making the tool available to deans so that they can be responsible for the courses in their department. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
So initially when I built this tool for Utah State, the version that we were using, it was for our instructional design team to review online courses. And so we have different instructional designers who are assigned, you know, they have multiple departments that they look out for. And so they were assigned to review the courses at the start of the semester, interact with the faculty, et cetera. Well, with all of the insanity that's happened this year, that added a lot more courses that they were trying to track. And so Utah State actually just barely transitioned from the version that I built for them to the Cidi Labs hosted version. And part of that change is geared towards handing off responsibility for that course readiness to the actual departments. And so the deans or whoever they may appoint are now the ones that are getting added to ReadyGO to go through and review the courses, set those different statuses, reach out to the faculty, et cetera. And our Cidi, Utah State, the instructional design team is just kind of going through and looking over and being a resource rather than being that primary point of contact for each of the departments and all of their teachers. So not quite sure how that's going to work out yet. They've been working on getting them all trained on how it works, et cetera. So it's just a brand new shift that we're making at Utah State.
That's pretty cool. I had not heard that, so thank you for sharing.
I actually haven't been in on the trainings. I just was found out through our USU Slack channel that's how they're doing it. So
nice. There's a couple of questions about checklists and alerts, and I feel like maybe the two concepts are getting confused a little bit. So the alerts, those are the red boxes or the boxes that will glow red if there's, you know, if it's not published, for example, it'll be red, and not red if the course is published. So the alerts are items that have been programmed into the tool that are leveraging the Canvas API to go out and interrogate Canvas and bring back information programmatically from the course. The alerts do not have a bearing on statuses, so they don't programmatically flip a status. The status column, you know, whether it's published or ready, you know, whether it's a course that's ready or hasn't been reviewed yet, those statuses, those are all manual status is that someone's got to go in and manually check. So the idea is you go in, you check the course, you look at the alerts, maybe you click into the alerts to go directly into the course, look at the content that's behind those alerts, and then, you know, flag your status. The checklists, again, are lists of things to do related to the course, typically for, you know, geared at the course reviewers. Those are not actively monitoring Canvas. Those are not leveraging the API to do anything with, you know, as far as proactive monitoring of the Canvas environment. So hopefully that helps kind of clarify those, you know, those three concepts a little bit better inside the tool. Kenneth, or Chuck, did I mischaracterize anything or skip any important details? All right, fair enough. Let's see here. Let me just quickly review a couple more questions.
I was going to say, I can address one that I was just starting to type out, which is about, can the reports be exported?
Perfect.
So one of the things that you can do in ReadyGO is that there is a way that you can go up and you can either export the whole, you know, report of all the courses, or you can select specific courses and you can export that as a CSV, which basically just exports that table out. One of the primary reasons that we do that at Utah State is let's say we filter down to the unpublished courses, and then we export a CSV off of that we'll then use to create a mail merge document, so we can email all of that faculty to say, hey, will you please make sure that your content's published? We're getting down to the wire. We want students to be able to access their courses. Because at Utah State, we don't actually use that bulk publish. We want that responsibility to fall on our faculty. So instead, we'll do like the exporting of that report so they can see that. There was also a question earlier about like archiving. So the data does get archived, and Chuck will have to correct me on when this happens now. Originally, it was just after like 30 days. I think that's been shifted a little bit, but to where you can download old data. Chuck, do you want to talk about the archiving? And
yeah, so it does get downloaded, but it does get archived. It is a manual archive. So after a semester is either launched or after it's over, that's up to you. You can choose to archive those deadlines, and you have the ability to download that and basically it'll create an export of a CSV that you can kind of review all the different courses. That, I think there was a comment, or can we, once you've archived that, can you once again unarchive it? And I don't think that is actually something that we have available at the time. So that is, once it's over, then and you archive it, then it is archived, and that information is available as a download, but it can't be put back into ReadyGO.
And another question here, Chuck, related to setup, and Kenneth, maybe one of you can address this, but so Dana says here, so if this is set up in a Canvas course itself, can you have the ReadyGO course set up for a specific Canvas term? For instance, there would be a ReadyGO course for spring 2020 or fall 2020, et cetera. And I think the confusion here is that I'm not sure we've made the deadline, the association with the deadline clear. So when you go into ReadyGO and set up your teams and everything, you also go through a process of setting up which courses you want to follow, or which batch of courses you're working on. And that batch is typically associated with some sort of deadline that you set. It doesn't have to be, but it is typically set with some sort of deadline. And so as you're working through the system to gather the courses together, you can query Canvas and pull in courses from spring 2020. There's all sorts of features that allow you to filter through courses that you may pull in through the Canvas API into your list. So as you're massaging that initial list and associating it with a deadline, you have quite a bit of control over which courses to pull into a batch, associate with a deadline, and then that deadline can be worked on separate from, by a separate team from other deadlines that may be assigned to other team members. So hopefully that helps kind of clarify some of that setup, how the courses actually get into the tool in order for them to be worked.
Yeah, so typically there's just a single tool, and then you'd set a new deadline for spring or summer or fall, or your spring trimester, or your spring 7-week courses and your spring 14-week courses. Or, initially at Utah State, we just had those deadlines tied to terms. But as we've worked with some of the other institutions, there are institutions who have multiple course launch dates even within a given term. And so basically when you bring in the courses, and like Mike said, you can bring those in just using the Canvas API, tell it to go search a sub account in Canvas and bring in those courses. Or there's also a way that you can upload a CSV. So if you have an integration with a student information system, that you can export a report with that SIS course ID, you can upload a CSV into ReadyGO and it'll go out and gather all that information about those courses. But then, yeah, you're setting those different deadlines based on what periods you want to track. So rather than having to change from course to course to course, you just go up in the top and you choose from the drop down the deadline that you're working towards.
Thank you, Kenneth. Sharon asks, she points out, it sounds like we can tell which courses are actively using design tools in this product. Is that correct?
So, and once again, Chuck, you can correct me if you've changed this. One of the main things that it actually looks for with design tools is whether the course syllabus was built using design tools. I'm not sure if we're checking much of the other content, but because the course syllabus does have that feature in design tools where you can automatically have it update your policies, that's one of the features that we had a lot of people wanting to make sure that they could know if a syllabus was using design tools so that they could go and verify that part. But just in general, that's the main piece it's looking for, is whether the syllabus was built using design tools.
I believe there's an alert to see if the homepage is built using Design Plus as well. Am I imagining things?
I know there's one about it being a customized front page, but I don't know that it's specifically, it's just saying letting you know that the course is set up to use a front page as that landing area, not how that specific homepage was built.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, Kenneth. So let me just ask Tanya and Eric, I've seen you active on chat. Are there some questions that have come up that we should talk about, discuss more globally for the audience here? And if not, that's fine.
Mike, I can respond to the question about checklists, monitoring things like the use of rubrics and discussions throughout the term. As you had mentioned, as you guys have mentioned, the checklists are those that we are manually checking as the instructional designers are working with the instructors. So if we kept that section of courses that we were reviewing and we kept on checking them throughout the semester, I suppose we could update it, but it's not something that happens automatically. It is something we would have to be documenting somewhere else if we weren't going to document it in ReadyGO. And so for us, it was just easier to put it into ReadyGO and have it be something we documented as we noticed it during the development process. One of the other things I'll quickly mention is because we were very quickly moving to everything being online for our summer term, we brought on some external contract instructional designers. And ReadyGO has been really helpful for us to be able to keep our internal instructional designers and our external instructional designers all working together and knowing what things need to be done. And so that's been really helpful for us, as we've had to bring on some people that weren't going to be in our customary processes and flows that we had been established in the previously.
Excellent. Thank you, Tanya.
Well, the only thing that I would throw in is the longer we all work in higher ed, the more we realize every school really is different. So there are some structures and things, and we're big, but we don't use any of the programs or team setting. We found that it was easiest since we are not siloed with any sort of structural things. There's like an institutional level of support. We just don't use that. And I sometimes feel bad about just not turning on part of a tool. It's like, it's there, we should use it. Yeah, just don't. Everything's in the default program, default team. There are things like that that I found in this where it'll do whatever works for your institution, but designing one tool that has the proper like nomenclature and structure for every possible university is not going to work. So some of the questions coming through on, can you build it this way or structure this or do that? You probably can. You may just find that you name it a different way. Deadlines, I'm glad that you mentioned that as well, because for us, we don't really have drop dead dates, but we do structure things based on that. And that was a feature that got added, is being able to custom name those. So we've found it looks like it would meet structures very different than ours, and we found that it works for ours just fine. So it's been very flexible that way.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric.
And Mike, I'd just add one question. There's a question in the Q&A about the reporting to find stats of usage and therefore be able to customize some of our faculty development. Since we are just starting it, we are thinking that way. We haven't actually done that yet, but also we wanted to be able to get some stats about usage so that we could customize some of the things to say, for example, I want to have a panel in which 3 instructors who are doing this particular technique can present to the rest of their faculty, to the rest of our faculty in the college. And that way it helps me to kind of spotlight some of the people who are doing things that I really like or that are good practices.
To kind
Excellent.
of tie into that, as well as the question Tanya answered earlier about the checklist. So there's the checklist, and then there's the alerts. So the little parts there that show in red if they are using discussions, and if they do have, you know, those different pieces set, are they using, you know, the default grading scheme? Those pieces are things that whenever you scan, it'll go through and gather that information. So you can keep scanning through the semester and it will let you know if they are using discussions. But if you have checklists associated to them, that's a little bit different. But the other thing with those different alerts is on that kind of reporting dashboard where you can see the status of your different courses, how many of them are in the different states and how they're assigned out to the different users. There is also a graph that shows you how many of your courses don't have a syllabus and how many of them aren't using discussions. And so you can kind of see not only just as you're looking down through the table, but on that dashboard view, you can see which of those kind of flags are being missed the most. So if you really need to target actually having the syllabus in the syllabus section, which I guess is another key point to point out. When it says they don't have a syllabus, it's saying they're not using the syllabus portion of Canvas. It's not scanning through all their content, looking to see if by chance in some random page they have a PDF called syllabus. It's really just looking at that syllabus portion in Canvas. So, you know, maybe that's what you need to start addressing, is you're seeing that a lot of courses are being reported as not having a syllabus, and it's really just because they're not using that portion of Canvas.
Excellent. Thanks, Kenneth. So let me wrap up with one last question, and I'll just kind of clarify some of the things that we see in the future for this tool. So David asks a question here: is the instructor able to use the tool so that they can report back that they have completed certain tasks? And you know, the short answer is today the answer is no, but task management is an area where we feel like there is an opportunity to grow the functionality of the product. And we've been doing some design work and some early requirements gathering in this area. So the tool really was created to, you know, help with that lead up to a new term for a batch of courses. That was sort of the driving use case of this version of the tool. We also have recognized that there are, you know, new course development projects that aren't related to a term that need tracking. There's, you know, lots of other project management related to course development that we could probably do a better job of tracking. And so, you know, what you see here is a first iteration of ReadyGO. It's very good at what it does in terms of helping you track and prepare those courses for an upcoming term, but we see an opportunity to expand the tool to do things, you know, like project tracking for a team and assigning tasks to one another and checking those tasks off. And the view, we feel like having the LTI tool available to instructors is a pretty interesting way to get the instructors involved in some of those activities. So that, you know, there's more to come from our perspective as far as the vision here for this product. And we encourage anyone who has interest in, you know, helping foster the future here to reach out and contact us. We are, you know, anxious to get feedback on some of the planning that we're doing now, and would love to hear anyone's ideas as to how this tool can be improved in the future as well. So with that, I am going to